What is up, everybody? Renfail here, currently playing in the New Game Plus mode as I work my way through doing the Mage vocation right now. Got a few more guides that I'm going to be working on here as I wrap up Dragon Dogma 2 in its totality. But, you know, I'm 60 plus hours in. I've played the base game. I'm in New Game Plus. You know, we're pretty deep into this now, and I've already done my final thoughts video, and I think we're at a place where I can actually sit down and give you guys my final review here as we're playing through the game. Overall, I had a really good time. I played on the PS5, didn't have any issues, no bugs. It's been pretty good. The overall experience, I'm going to say this right out of the gate, is good, but not great. It's a solid game that's got a lot of fun behind it. There's some impressive RPG mechanics behind it, but there are also some flaws in terms of jank and performance issues and just overall repetitiveness, and you know, we'll get to that all at the end. I don't want to talk about the negatives until I've talked about the positives, so we are going to be talking about all the things I like first and foremost as we go through. Because like with any game, there are always things that, you know, some things are great, some things aren't so great, and there's nothing wrong with that. All right, let's go ahead and deal with some goblins here and talk about one of the things I do like, which is the combat system. It is an incredibly well done action RPG. And although there is some jank to the AI with the companions, which we may or may not see in this video, but I'm sure you've heard of things like, you know, they'll jump off cliffs randomly, they will fall to their deaths, they'll fall into the water and die to the brine, they'll run off and do things that you didn't ask them to occasionally. There's definitely some jank with the pawns themselves and the way they act in combat. But outside of the, you know, I wouldn't call it common times that they mess up. They do nevertheless mess up. But it's not that big of a deal. It happens rarely, I would say. Uncommonly to rarely. So the combat in this game is really, really good. And what you just saw is, you know, we're in New Game Plus mode right now. And one of the things I will say that even though I really do like the combat, when I played in the normal game, the base game, the combat was quite challenging all the way up until the end. And I was about level 35 when I finished the game. And even that final boss fight was pretty challenging. It wasn't overly challenging. Hang on. But it was definitely... Okay. Combat in New Game Plus is not very challenging at all. And if I was on my Mystic Archer, we would be one-shotting. I would be one-shotting everything we come across. But I'm learning a mage right now, so because of that, I'm currently only rank 3 in my vocation, so I haven't maxed out anything beyond the Magic Archer yet. So currently working on the mage, and then I'm going to turn around and do the Mystic Spearhand. I'm just doing mage a little bit. Really what I want to do is the sorcerer, but I wanted to get some mage underneath my belt to make a video about it. But we're going to go back to town. We're going to revamp as a sorcerer and go from there. But there's a lot of fun to be had with the combat system, even when there's not a ton of challenge in New Game Plus, because you get to come try out something new. And if nothing else, the combat system is really fun. And it's active, and there's lots of spell effects, and there's lots of physical effects, and there's jumping on mobs and stabbing mobs. There's big boss mobs that you know, make these little random fights throughout the wilderness feel like nothing. I don't know if we'll come across one here because we're getting close to town, but you know, there's griffins and ogres and minotaurs, and I've done videos about all these in the past. There's a lot of variety in terms of big bad bosses, but there's not enough of them is the problem. And so one of the things the game suffers from long term is that as fun as the combat is in short bursts, it does get incredibly boring over great lengths of time because there is no variety in the vast majority of the overworld mobs that you're coming up against. So it's lots of wolves and harpies and bandits and goblins and things of that nature. The griffin encounters are rare, but they do happen. The minotaurs, ogres, and cyclops are more common, but they're not. There's still not. There's not enough of them. And when you get into New Game Plus, you generally feel that because it's like, well, there's nothing to do other than one-shot all these normal mobs that you're coming across in the wild. So that's one of the weak points of the game is that yes, it's a good system, a good combat system, a beautiful system, a fast-paced system, a fun system, but when you look at the map, they touted this whole our game doesn't need fast travel because nothing is boring in our game. Only boring games need fast travel. That was something that was said by the game's director. And I'm sorry, when your entire map just consists of filling waypoints. So like if I wanted to run from, here's my arrow right here. If I want to run from here down to here, which is Har Village, that's probably a 15 to 20 minute run real time. Maybe less than that. Because you have to take the road. It's very linear. You can't go off the beaten path because they have literally obstacle walls that you can't climb over and things of that nature. Oops, I don't know where I went like that. So if you want to run this, you have to come out here and you have to follow the official road all the way through across the bridge because you can't go into the water because the water kills you. Brine kills your pawns. You have to go all the way down here. You have to go all the way down through here and fight whatever's along the way or try to run from it. And as a result, the first time you make that journey, that's because I'm putting the controller down on my lap, everybody, and it's freaking it out. The first time you do it, it's cutesy, it's fun, it's adventurous. The third or fourth or fifth time you've done it, it's boring as hell because it doesn't matter how flashy the combat system is. After you've done the same combat encounters over and over and over for 50 different times, even when you're changing vocations, it'll start to get repetitive and old. So that's one of the weak points of the game. It is big. They talked about how it was 4 times bigger than Dragon's Dogma 1, but the biggest issue that this map suffers from is the fact that it's not that big. It might look big, but the reality is, do you see all these like curvy tan lines that go through everything? That's all you're really allowed to explore. So you can't really go off the beaten path. You're pretty much confined to those roads and pathways, and you can't really go beyond there. You can't just go. This is not an open world RPG. This is a very linear RPG with linear places to go. That being said, you can just kind of go off and explore the roads and find lots of caves and hidden things to go to. There's quite a bit to explore, but this is you know the trickiness to this is that they have a max level of 999 in this game, and because of the way the new game system is set up, there's various endings that you can get in the game. And that can allow you to keep playing over and over and over, as is the cyclical nature of the relationship between the dragon and you. And really, there's no added challenge to anything. There's no added maps or anything like that. It's just more of the same. And there are some caveats to that. I understand with the secret ending, the special ending, and no, we're not going to call it true ending because there's no such thing exists. True ending is a myth, but there is a secret ending, so we can call it that. Which has a few hours of extra content, but it's a few hours of extra content, nothing special. So, at the end of the day, it's big the first time you go through it, but after you've cleared the map, you realize that it's actually not that big. I know when I finished after 30 hours of gameplay and I finished with the main campaign, I had cleared pretty much all of the map, and I was genuinely puzzled by people who said there's no way he missed so much. He did. There were side quests that I didn't do for sure. There were absolutely side quests that I chose not to do, but I cleared the whole map. So you can't say that the game is that big because it's just not. Now, if you want to do a completionist run, I would love to hear from somebody out there who does this. I'm assuming you'll get 100 plus hours. If you wanted to go full completionist mode and do all the quests and everything else in this game, and that's great for those people who want to do that. But for someone like me who gets bored with the same combat over and over, by the way, it's the same thing with like God of War, Jedi Survivor. You know, I love the stories in those games, but after I've played those games a couple of times through, I never want to play them again. I just don't, because it's not fun to me after. First time's really fun. Second time is like usually me coming in on a harder difficulty and just challenging myself through a gameplay session and making sure that I cleared everything I wanted to see. But I have no compulsion to go back and play a lot of the action combat games a third time, because I'm not really a huge action combat kind of guy. I'm more of a story RPG kind of guy, which is like that's why games like Baldur's Gate 3 appeal to me more, because it's less about the combat and it's more about the story. So I mean, that's just the way I play games, but that's a personal preference. It's not indicative of this being a good or bad game. Like I said, this is not a bad game. The RPG mechanics are super, super rich and deep. You've got height and weight, and you've got all these different gear pieces that you can get, and there's different cosmetics gears. Like, these are things that I can't even wear right now because I switched to vocations, and that's something that's really cool, because in this game compared to the first one, switching vocations here is so much easier than in the first game. And so I wanted to go off and try a mage for a little bit just to get some footage and to do something for a video that I want to make. But now when I come back to town, I can be like, well, you know what? I'm done with the mage. I wanna go try something different. Now the cool thing is that like I think I've got all but the warfare. The warfare is the one vocation I didn't do the first time through. I didn't do the quest. And I'm not really that keen on it. I suppose if I ever do get that deep into a second playthrough, I may
Here we are.
hang on, I gotta make sure I'm in the right place. But for right now, I don't see the need to do that, because it's not something I really have that much interest in playing. But all the other vocations, you can come here.
How fares your retrieval of those plundered weapons?
I'm going to present these things to him just so we can get the quest done. So this is something else you can see. We're completing a quest here, a couple of quests.
Oh, most excellent. You may now change your vocation to sorcerer, if it pleases you, sir.
So this would have been the quest to earn the sorcerer for the first time.
If you wish to register as a warrior instead.
And the sorcerer and the warrior. So these are the first two quests that you would have unlocked in your first playthrough. Now, because I've already done this, these vocations are already unlocked for me. So I'm just doing the quest for the purpose of leveling up this character.
You may now change your vocation. What's more, I bear glad tidings.
Okay, so I don't really care about the dialogue here. What I do want to get to is here.
Have you business with the guild, sir? I should be glad to assist.
Because now you can go here and just change vocations at will, and certain things change as you go along, and that's okay. What's interesting about this is going through and unlocking all of the various core skills and abilities that you want for your characters. And one more important thing is like all of the augments, because you can unlock a variety of augments per vocation, and you can store those over on the left here, so that when you switch vocations, you want to do something else, that's cool. You can still use all these augments, and they do things like more hit points and better DPS and all these different things, faster climbing, better targeting, things of that nature. And it's not just you can also do them with your pawn, and so you can switch your pawn's vocation, which is just a fun system, and then you have the social component where you have the online pawns and being able to get better with pawns by getting coins and recommendations and leveling those up by allowing other players to use your pawn and have pawn quests. So even though this isn't necessarily a multiplayer game, they have that multiplayer component with the pawn NPCs, which is genuinely interesting. Now in this case, I actually do want to change vocation. So it's as simple as coming in here and going, I want to acquire this. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. And then once you've done that, you can come in here and you can put all your augments in like so. So we can come in and say, I want, I'll take endurance for sure. I want as much stamina as I can. We'll do magic defense. We will do that. We will do veracity. We will do strength and magic. And we will do, we got one more. Let's do radiance. And he's already good to go. So we're good to go here. And now I've switched vocations. And it's just, this is one of those really cool things. So that in terms of RPG mechanics, like the way this does this now, everything's in my inventory from my other vocation. So if I want to go store all this stuff and all this gear, I mean, I now have my magic archer weapons here, as well as my magician gear. So you can go store all this stuff, and you can just change vocations at will and have your gear sets ready to go, and so on and so forth. So, in terms of the RPG mechanics, there's some really good RPG systems and mechanics in place here. There's a photo mode if you want to take pictures, which is pretty standard in games these days. Overall, I would say the writing is okay. The story is mid. When I say the writing is okay, here's the problem I have. Everybody in this game talks in like really old English, and it's super annoying after like 5 minutes.
Have you business with the guild, sir? I should be glad to assist you.
So let's talk to him.
I long for the times when I was always on my feet.
He's not one of the really bad ones. Let's see if I can talk to my pawn.
I felt certain I would find you here, Arisen, and it seems I was right.
Let's talk.
Though I cannot enter the palace myself, I will at least escort you to the entrance.
Okay, what else can
Should
we
your
say?
pack grow overfull, have no fear. I'll lighten your load by spreading it out among us pawns.
This kind of dialogue goes on and on and on, and the bark from the NPCs gets really annoying after the first 30 minutes because they start repeating themselves over and over and over, and just the old-timey dialogue doesn't sit very well with me. But I realize that might be personal preference more than anything else. The game is fun. If I had to give it, a score, which of course I do, it's a 7 out of 10 for me. There were things I really liked, but ultimately the combat gets really tiring and old even after you change vocations. There's no real difference between new game mode and other game modes. It's pretty much the same. There's no additional challenge. There is a ton of jank in the AI with the pathing and everything else, and the camera when you're hanging onto mobs and you get backed into a corner. The game looks good though. It plays good. The frame rates are what they are. I played on the PS5. I don't really care about frames that much, but I know some people were having hissy fits about the 60 frames per second. And at the very least, I think they should have provided players with a performance mode, like pretty much every other game does, like Cyberpunk 2077 performance mode. I mean, Starfield should have done the same thing. Like, I'm not a fan of games forcing you to, players should have the option. Just give them a performance mode. Not everybody cares about having high fidelity graphics. I mean, I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is another good example where, you could play it on 30 if you want, or you could play it on 60 if you want to sacrifice the graphics a little bit. So it suffers from that. But outside of the jank and the bugs and the bad, some of the bad writing and the voiceovers are okay. The story's just kind of meh. My main complaint was the game was over way too fast, in the sense that, there was no way to know what really was the main quest. So I was just going along, and I thought I was going to get a 50, 60 hour gameplay session out of it, and boom, I was done at 30 hours, and I was like, okay, well, all right, I'm done. And I have no desire to go do a second run all the way through to do this other 5 endings or whatever. I'm not going to be doing that. But I think had I known that going into the game, I may have played it a little bit more, like I would have done more side quests and I would have gone off the beaten path a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I definitely feel like I got my money's worth, and I definitely had enjoyment. And like I said, I don't even know, after all the extra time I've been doing just playing offline and doing guides and stuff. I'm probably 60 hours in at this point. I won't go too much further beyond this point because I really only have a handful of guides. Like I'm doing the Ultimate Beginner's Guide right now. I'm going to do a Mage Guide. I'd like to do a Sorcerer Guide. And then if I have the time, I'll do a Mystic Spearhand Guide too. But then I'm done. So I came, I played. It was fun. 7 out of 10. I do recommend it for people who love action RPGs. I don't recommend it for deep story or cinematic storytelling or narrative storytelling or anything like that because the game does get old outside of the action combat. But if you love action combat and that's your jam, you're going to love this game. There's a lot to love here. And hopefully they just improve it over time, make it better, smoother, better performing, get all the jank out of it. And I think it can go from being just a good game to possibly a great game. But that's my take on things. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Daily streams here and on Twitch. And of course, there's a Discord and Patreon so you can find out more about all the things I do. Until next time, everybody, stay safe. Happy gaming.